99% of wealthy people keep a single object on their dining table, and that's exactly why they never worry about money. The difference between making money and keeping money might lie in the way you use this space. And what happens when you place this one thing on your table may surprise you more than any spreadsheet or finance app. But before I reveal what it is, you need to understand why this place, the dining table, carries an ancient power almost no one respects anymore. Drop it in the comments. Do you already keep something special on your dining table? I want to see who's been applying this secret without even realizing it. Most people treat the dining table like just another piece of furniture, a place to eat, to drop your keys, pile up the mail, or scatter work papers. But in some of the world's oldest Eastern traditions, especially within the philosophy of Feng Yue, almost unknown here in the West, the dining table is considered the energetic heart of the home. It's no exaggeration. According to this ancient wisdom, everything you place on your table directly influences what comes into, or stays out of, your life. Wealth, harmony, health, peace. It all begins there. Think about it. How many important moments in your life have happened around a table? A marriage proposal, a tough conversation, a Thanksgiving dinner. The table may be silent, but it holds everything. And that's why, according to the masters of this tradition, it has to be alive, organized, and energetically aligned with what you want to attract. Now stop and be honest. What does your table look like right now? Is it empty? Covered in clutter? Does it carry silence, stress, or disorder? Or is it set with intention, with care, with presence? This difference might seem small, but to the subconscious mind, it's huge. Environmental psychology has already proven that physical spaces shape our behaviors, our thoughts, and even our nervous system. A messy space sends signals of confusion, overload, stagnation. A clean, intentional, well-kept space communicates order, clarity, direction. And when it comes to money, this is even more powerful because money symbolically is energy in motion. Where there's blockage, the flow stops. Where there's clarity, it circulates. The dining table, in this context, becomes a mirror of your relationship with abundance. A forgotten, neglected table turns into a magnet for scarcity. And that's not just a poetic metaphor. It's a psychological and energetic reflection. In Feng Yue, the table is seen as an inner garden, a space of manifestation. What you plant there, chaos or harmony, is exactly what grows around your life. Now look at the contrast. A cluttered table sends out the message, "I'm not ready to receive." A cared-for table, even if simple, sends the opposite signal. There is space here. There is intention. There is presence. That kind of symbolic communication activates areas of the brain tied to reward, motivation, and confidence. Families that keep their dining table as a central point of the home, with fresh flowers, natural light, meaningful objects, often report more connection, better conversations, and even greater financial prosperity. Not because of magic, but because this small daily ritual of caring for the space reinforces an abundance mindset. And perhaps most importantly, it nurtures the feeling of being worthy. You can notice the same pattern in truly prosperous environments. High-end restaurants in New York, elegant homes in Los Angeles, or beautifully curated spaces in places like Napa Valley. Pay attention. The table is never neglected. It's the centerpiece, set, lit, alive. There's a quiet respect for that space, and that's no coincidence. People who consciously cultivate wealth know that the outside reflects the inside, and the inside reflects the outside. Maybe you've never heard of Funyu. Maybe it all sounds too symbolic. But before you dismiss it, ask yourself, does your home carry the energy of expansion, or does it feel like it's holding you back? The place where you eat and where your family gathers is either nourishing your field or draining it. These are deep questions, and the answer begins where you probably least expected, your dining table. And that's exactly what we're about to change. With just 4 simple steps, steps anyone can apply today, using only what they already have at home, you can transform your dining table into a true source of prosperity energy. And the first step begins with a gesture the ancients considered sacred, and that wealthy people, even without knowing why, continue to repeat to this day. The first step to turning your table into a center of active prosperity is the living presence of fresh flowers and plants. Not artificial, not plastic, not eternal, alive, organic, breathing. It may seem simple, but the symbolism runs deep, and both science and tradition agree on this point. Flowers represent vitality, growth, renewal. In the human subconscious, they're tied to positive moments, celebrations, gatherings, fresh starts. Psychologically, their presence in a room triggers feelings of emotional safety, optimism, and warmth. It's as if the brain immediately recognizes this place is alive, this place can be trusted. But it goes even deeper. In the Funyue tradition, flowers are considered energetic anchors. They don't just decorate, they purify and amplify the energy of the space. Certain flowers in particular carry powerful symbolism. Yellow roses for prosperity, red carnations for passion and strength, white lilies for clarity and renewal, and sunflowers for optimism and spiritual elevation. Picture a bare dining table. Now picture that same table with a simple vase of fresh flowers in the center. The difference goes far beyond aesthetics. Something invisible begins to move. The space wakes up. Energy starts flowing more freely. You breathe easier without noticing it. You feel more inspired to cook, to gather, to care for the home. This is archetypal. Flowers awaken the inner nurturer. And when the nurturer is present, the destroyer has no room. Walk into the wealthiest homes in the world, or even high-end hotels in New York or Beverly Hills, and you'll see fresh flowers, even when no one is around to admire them. That's not wasteful. It's a quiet reminder that the environment must stay alive if life itself is to keep expanding. And it begins with respecting what sits at the center. But here's the key. It's not enough to throw just any flowers on the table and expect results. Intention matters. First, choose flowers that align with what you want to attract. Want more joy and optimism? Go with sunflowers. Looking for love and harmony? Pink roses. Seeking emotional clarity and peace? White lilies. Every flower carries a vibration. Use that to your advantage. Second, take care of them. There's no prosperity energy in wilted flowers, stale water, or dry leaves. That communicates neglect, stagnation, and abandonment. Change the water daily. Trim yellowing leaves. Replace the arrangement as soon as it starts losing life. This simple daily gesture of attention and care is what truly activates the field of abundance. And it's not just symbolic. Neuroscience studies show that Interacting with plants lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, and increases dopamine, the neurotransmitter linked to pleasure and motivation. In plain English, when you tend to flowers, you're regulating your nervous system. And a regulated nervous system is far more likely to make smart decisions, spot opportunities, and act with clarity. Exactly the behaviors that lead to wealth creation. Now you might be thinking, but I can't afford to buy flowers every week. And here's the beauty of it. This has nothing to do with quantity or luxury. A single flower in a small glass of water can carry more impact than an expensive bouquet left to wither. What matters is the living presence and the intention behind it. Think of it like a silent code. Every time you glance at the flowers, your brain receives a symbolic message. Beauty is nurtured here. Care lives here. This is a space where life can bloom. That repeated symbolism gradually rewires your mindset, and mindset is the soil where wealth takes root. But here's an important warning. Even if you put the most expensive flowers in the world on your table, none of this will work if you ignore one detail. A detail so simple most people dismiss it, yet it may be sabotaging your prosperity energy every single day. And that's what we're about to uncover in the next step. Now that you understand the role of fresh flowers on your table as activators of prosperity energy, it's time to go deeper. Because the truth is, one single change isn't enough for lasting transformation. You need continuity. You need a system. And that's why, in Feng there are 3 additional elements considered essential pillars of the energetic table: salt and water, light and color. The second element is so discreet, most people think it's just decoration, but it carries one of humanity's oldest symbols of purification: salt and water. In a small clear glass container, and yes, it needs to be clear, place a pinch of sea salt in clean water. This tiny gesture activates 2 powerful archetypes: cleansing energy and continuous flow. In ancient symbolism, salt represents protection. It absorbs heaviness, density, stagnation. Water represents flow, adaptability, life in motion. Together, they form a kind of invisible shield, a subtle filter that keeps out what doesn't serve your abundance. Just place this small glass of salt water on the left-hand side of the table as you sit down. Change the water weekly. Notice how the liquid darkens over time. That's not magic. It's energetic physics at work. The third element? Light. But not just any light. Ideally, your dining table should receive natural light as often as possible. Open the blinds. Pull back the curtains. Let the sunlight in. Natural light activates the pineal gland, lifts your mood, regulates your circadian rhythm, and most importantly, it signals to your mind it's daytime. Energy is available. Expansion is possible. But if your dining area is dark or windowless, don't worry. You can use a small white candle or a lamp with a warm glow. The key is intention. When you light it, you're declaring symbolically, this is a space of nourishment and exchange. Now imagine this: a table with fresh flowers at the center, a small glass of salt water to the side, and a candle glowing warmly. Simple, yet profoundly symbolic. And that brings us to the fourth element, the colors red and yellow. These colors are directly connected to the archetype of prosperity and personal power. Red activates the root chakra, tied to material security, presence, and decisiveness. Yellow stimulates the solar plexus, the center of confidence, charisma, and manifestation. It's no accident that the world's most successful brands, think McDonald's, Target, or even Ferrari, weave these colors into their logos. They speak straight to the limbic system, the part of the brain that drives emotion and action. How to bring these colors to your table? It doesn't take much. Small details are enough. A napkin holder in red, a touch of gold in a placemat, or even a bowl of fruit, apples, pomegranates, bananas. You don't need to repaint walls or spend a fortune. What matters is presence and intention. Now, pay close attention to what's happening here. With every element you add to your table, flowers, salt water, light, colors, something shifts inside you. It's not just the room that transforms. It's your inner posture. You begin to see yourself as someone who cultivates wealth, who deserves abundance, who protects the space where prosperity can take root. But here's the most critical part. All of this can be destroyed in seconds if you fall into certain traps. Seemingly harmless habits that carry a heavy symbolic weight and a negative one. Mistakes thousands of people make every single day, not realizing they're sabotaging what they've been working so hard to build. It's like planting a beautiful garden with care and then unknowingly pouring poison on it. That's why, in the next section, we're going to expose the 4 most common mistakes that completely block the prosperity energy of your table. And here's the scary part. Chances are you're making at least one of them right now. The 4 prosperity blockers. You may already have fresh flowers, salt and water, warm lighting, and prosperity colors, and still feel like something isn't flowing. The table looks beautiful, but money feels stuck. Opportunities vanish. The atmosphere feels heavy. Why? Because there are 4 fatal mistakes that act like invisible brakes. Symbolic, yes, but powerful enough to shut down the field of abundance you're trying to create. 1. Leaving your wallet, cash, or credit cards on the table. At first, it sounds logical. We're talking about prosperity, and those items represent money, right? But here's the problem. Symbolically, the table is a place of nourishment, circulation, and sharing. When you drop objects tied to control, scarcity, and worry, like wallets or credit cards, you anchor the field into the tension of not enough. Notice what happens when a wallet lands on the table. Conversations about bills, debts, or budgeting pop up almost automatically. The message absorbed by the space is, money is a problem to solve here, and prosperity walks out the door. Your wallet deserves its own place, private, reserved, never on the altar of family exchange. 2. Leaving bills or payment notices on the table. This is one of the most common and most harmful mistakes. The table's role is to nourish body, mind, and relationships. When you turn it into a shrine for financial stress, you're planting exactly that: anxiety, debt, scarcity, even if the envelopes are sealed, even if they're there just for a day. The symbolic impact is the same. You've invited financial worry to dine with you. And remember, repetition creates momentum. A table that carries bills every day becomes, over time, a magnet for negative energy. Your thoughts get heavier, your mood dips, your energy field shrinks, and that directly impacts the financial decisions you make. 3. Keeping broken or chipped items on the table. This includes cracked glasses, chipped plates, or vases with fractures. Small as they seem, the symbolism is loud. Where there is breakage, flow is interrupted. A cracked cup whispers to the subconscious, the energy here doesn't hold. And without noticing, you start acting as though everything is fragile, unstable, risky. Rule of thumb: if it's broken, it no longer belongs on the altar of prosperity. 4. Leaving sharp objects exposed. Knives, scissors, letter openers, any item with a visible blade. Cuts symbolize separation, tension, rupture. Even if you use them often, they don't belong on the table out of context. Their presence activates the archetype of division, conflict, and aggression. And here's something deeper. Many people who live with exposed blades in spaces of togetherness, like the dining table, report more arguments, financial interruptions, impulsive decisions. It's as if the unconscious, exposed daily to the idea of cutting, begins looking for something to sever: a relationship, an investment, a promising idea. Take a moment. Are you making any of these mistakes? Does your table carry elements that cut, crack, worry, or drain? Because even with all the positive rituals, these invisible saboteurs cancel out the vibration of the space. It's like building a house with love and then leaving the windows open during a storm. The good news: the correction is simple and immediate. Remove anything that represents division, scarcity, urgency, or breakage. Transform your table into a space that breathes, that welcomes, that receives with ease. Remember, wealth doesn't flow into a space where it senses tension. When you do this, you're not just clearing off furniture. You're sending a new message to the universe and to your own inner field. Here there is space. Here there is order. Here there is flow. And this small, repeated gesture builds a new reality, one day at a time. And to seal this transformation, in the final step, you'll discover how to keep this energy alive and how to connect this practice to a larger current of abundance in your life. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to have it all? Good looks, a nice home, a steady job, yet still live with an inner sense of emptiness, repetition, or scarcity, both emotionally and financially? The answer often lies in something invisible yet decisive: the intention behind our actions. And when it comes to the dining table as an altar of prosperity, this truth becomes crystal clear. It's not enough to set a pretty table. It's not enough to follow steps like a magical recipe. If you go through the motions on autopilot just to see if it works, what you're really sending out is doubt, anxiety, and control. And the energetic field responds in kind, with instability, distrust, interruptions. The energy behind the gesture. Now listen closely. What you feel while setting your table matters more than the items you place on it. The energy you radiate in that moment is absorbed by the environment and then reflected back to you, multiplied. The table, within the tradition of Funyu and similar wisdom paths, is not a decoration. It's a mirror of your inner state, a reflection of your alignment between intention, emotion, and action. Take a simple example. Two people place flowers on the table. The first does it in a rush, thinking of it as a chore, believing they have to do it because someone said it attracts money. The second selects the flowers mindfully, feels the texture of the petals, places them with gratitude, and breathes deeply while arranging them. What do you think happens to the energy of those two tables? Exactly. The first may look fine to the eye, but radiates tension and obligation. The second, even in its simplicity, radiates presence, love, and clarity of intention. And that changes everything. This is one of the deepest lessons of Funyu and of many ancestral spiritual traditions. Presence is the invisible gold. Anything done with full awareness gains greater symbolic weight. A single action made with heart carries more power than 1,000 gestures performed on autopilot. Mealtime as a sacred pause. This is especially true during meals. How many times have you eaten without noticing? Standing up, scrolling through your phone, arguing, or chewing on worries instead of food. That turns the table, meant to be a center of nourishment and harmony, into a stage of disconnection. The body may be fed, but the spirit starves. That's why this practice goes beyond decoration. It's about creating a small sacred space in your everyday life, a territory where, for a few minutes each day, you're fully present, conscious, receptive. You don't need to be religious, mystical, or ceremonial. Just present, just there. Simple rituals to anchor. Presence. You can create simple rituals to activate this presence. Light a candle before eating. Take 3 deep breaths before the meal. Offer silent gratitude for the food and the hands that prepared it. Notice the colors of what's on your plate. Share one positive thought with whoever's at the table. These gestures aren't trivial. They're symbolic anchors that tell your brain and your energy field, this space matters, this space holds intention, this space plants abundance. And the more you cultivate that vibration, the more it ripples outward into every area of life. Business, relationships, creativity, decision-making. Because what you experience externally begins with how you inhabit your inner space, and your home is the visible extension of that inner space. The mirror effect. So before moving into the last step, pause, breathe, visualize your table with all the elements we've covered, and now ask yourself, honestly, what is my real intention in creating this space? If the answer is clear, loving, and rooted in the belief that you deserve abundance, then the field is already opening. And you'll notice the shift not just on your table, but in the paths that begin to unfold effortlessly in the days ahead. Now that you know, you can't unknow. Your table, perhaps once overlooked, is now a powerful mirror of your inner reality. It's not just where you eat, it's where you manifest, where you send silent messages to the universe and to your own emotional field. At this point, you've realized there is no separation between physical space and the life you live. The way you set your table mirrors the way you handle money, time, relationships, yourself. A neglected table says, I don't have time. It doesn't matter. I don't care for what sustains me. A living table, even simple, says, I am present. I am ready. I deserve wholeness. And that changes everything. The hidden codes. Today, you've learned how small symbols shape big realities. Fresh flowers aren't just decoration. They're signs of vitality and expansion. Salt and water aren't superstition. They're codes of purification and flow. Light, whether natural or intentional, isn't only aesthetic. It's the activation of clarity, awareness, and presence. Colors, when placed with purpose, speak directly to your emotional system. And here's the most striking part. The things that look harmless, wallets, bills, broken objects, knives, actually carry the symbolic weight of real energetic blockages. You cleared this today, or at least you finally faced it, and that alone already puts you in a different place. Now the question is, what will you do with this new state of awareness? You could just watch this video, feel inspired for a few minutes, and move on. Or you could make a simple, quiet, but profoundly transformative choice to act. Because change doesn't really happen when you know. It happens when you cross the line between knowing and doing. That's when the shift begins. So here's the invitation, plain and clear. Today, before the day ends, set your table. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be yours. It has to be done with presence. Pick a flower, fill a glass with salt and water, clear away what doesn't belong. Light a candle or turn on a lamp. Do it slowly, with intention, as if you were writing a quiet letter to life itself saying, I'm here, I'm ready to receive. Declaring and anchoring. And when you do this, come back here and write down a phrase of activation, not for engagement, but as an energetic anchor. When you write, you declare. When you declare, you move energy. The phrase is, my home is fertile ground for prosperity. Write it, speak it out loud, feel it. This isn't some magic mantra. It's a reminder of who you've decided to become from this moment on. Going one step further. And if you want to go a step further, and I strongly recommend you do, take a picture of your table once it's set. You don't have to post it, just keep it for yourself. Then 7 days from now, come back and share in the comments. What shifted? What arrived? What moved? Because something will change. It might be subtle, an unexpected invitation, a new client, a meaningful conversation, a clarity that wasn't there before. Or it might be deep, a necessary ending, a courage resurfacing, that unmistakable feeling of now it's time. But something will move because you stirred the center, the heart of the home. You awakened what had been dormant, and prosperity, despite what people say, doesn't come through hustle or urgency. It comes when you show you know how to care, how to receive, that you've created space inside and out for it to live. Protecting the field. And if this experience touched you in any way, know this, there's more to uncover, more to fine-tune. Your whole home speaks. Every corner, every object, every pile-up, or empty space. That's why, in the next video, I'll show you 5 invisible but common items that silently block the flow of prosperity in most homes. It only takes one of them to quietly and persistently freeze your energy field. This is the next step, the natural continuation of what you've begun today. You've activated the center. Now it's time to protect the field. The link is in the description and pinned comments. Go watch, then come back and tell me what you discovered. Closing note. And remember, every home has a voice. Your table is the opening note, and the way you care for it sets the melody of your life.